Well, good morning, folks. It's Bruce here from the Coasters Club, and today I'm in Ross, the little gold mining township of Ross. Beautiful place, and Peter Bennett has agreed to be interviewed by us so that we could share his story with members of the Coasters Club. Now, a lot of you will have seen the opening of the Motorhome Association camp in Ross recently on the Coasters Club. Over 11,000 people viewed it, which was just amazing. And Peter was the star. So Peter, thanks very much. It's jolly decent of you.
Not a problem, Bruce.
And as you mentioned previously, it's in previous years it would have been you doing the interviewing.
It would have been for 20 years. I was the sole charge policeman here from 1975 through to 1996, and then I ceased police operations and went into real estate for 12 years, 13 years, and then, but people only ever remember me for being the old cop.
Oh well, look, we all love the old cop. Now, what's your full name?
Peter George Bennett.
Peter George Bennett. Did you have a nickname when you were growing up?
Yeah, Fat Man.
Fat Man.
Fat Man. I was a fairly chubby kid. Yeah, that was my nickname, Fat Man, when I was a kid.
Now, what year were you born?
1946.
Oh, good year.
Good year. Yeah. End of the war. Times were tough in the old country. Yeah.
And whereabouts were you born?
I was born in Shrewsbury, Shropshire, which is sort of West Midlands, rural county, beautiful county, particularly South Shropshire. And yeah, a lovely place to be born and raised.
Who were your mum and dad?
My dad was Jack Bennett, and he was a grocer. He had a garage filling station in a little village. And my mum was Jenny Bennett, and I was the youngest of 6 kids, and there's 2 of us left, and
wow,
the rest are gone.
So Dad ran a garage,
and sort of a general store filling station set up in the village, and that's when I can remember there weren't that many cars around at the time. I can remember the old man telling me the story about when it was 30 mile an hour came into this particular area, and one of these old characters said to him, "Well, Jack," he says, I don't know whether I can get up to 30 mile an hour." but anyway, that was just way back in those days.
So Peter, did your mum and dad ever tell you how they met?
No, they never did. No, they never did tell me how they met.
Yeah, I was the same.
Yeah.
Do you remember your first home?
Yes, it was the only home that I've ever had as a child. It was in a little village called Welshampton, not far from the Welsh border, and it was a 3-bedroom little bungalow, and that's where I lived from the time I was born until I was 19 when I left home.
What number were you out of the 6?
I was number 6.
Oh, you were the last one?
I was the last. I was the baby.
Oh dear, oh dear. Oh, you'd been spoiled. Now, when you were kids, what did your family do for fun? Like nowadays, the kids play with their iPads, and what did you kids do?
All we did was outdoors. It was all outdoors. We used to roam around the village. We'd roam around the woodlands, the fields. We just didn't have toys to speak of any. Oh, we might have the odd book, and for Christmases and stuff, we'd get clothing, a pair of socks or stuff like that. You wouldn't get all the stuff that these kids get today is just mind blowing, and it's actually obscene. But anyway, that's the way it is. We just roamed around, made our own fun. We only turned up at home when it was meal time, and then we'd be gone again with the rest of the village kids.
So Wales any different from New Zealand? Can you picture it? What did it look like? What is it? I mean, I've never been there.
Well, I was actually on the English side of the Welshampton is on the English side of the Welsh border, but my ancestors are a mixture. I'm a sort of a border mongrel, I suppose. I've got people from some of my, as I said, my ancestors were from Wales and England because we're right on the Welsh border. But it's rolling rural country, plenty of woodland, plenty of farmland, little villages. We had a canal, the old Shropshire Union Canal, running about a mile away from home, and we used to spend a lot of time jumping into the canal in those days from the bridges. The canal wasn't very deep and it wasn't very busy. But today, those canals, the same canals which were supplying, built in the late 1700s, early 1800s, and they were a form of transport with the narrowboats. They went into disrepair and disuse for many decades. But now, of course, they're a huge tourist draw because holiday narrowboats are the thing to do. You've probably seen them on TV and all that.
Yeah, I have.
And you're just trooping along at about 3 to 5 mile an hour, and there's literally hundreds of these now moving around these. There's a canal network throughout the UK, and we've actually been on one ourselves a few years ago, which was a bit of a treat. But in my day, when I was a kid, the water was always a bit groggy and muddy, but we used to swim in and jump off the old bridges.
As a kid, did you have a chore that you had to do at home? Of course, being number 6, I suppose you didn't do anything. But did you have a chore you had to do?
I think we all used to have to help. We all used to have to help. You'd do washing up, and you'd do sort of chopping firewood and helping do stuff like that.
Yeah.
And chop kindling and help empty the toilet on occasions.
Did you have a job you hated doing?
Yeah, emptying the toilet. Because it was a system like a large drum, and every now and again that large drum used to get emptied, and that was a mission.
Ooh.
That took a couple of us.
When you were at school, did you read books?
Yeah, yes, read books. Used to enjoy books. Well, that's all you could do, really. I always enjoyed reading.
Anything in particular, Peter?
Not really. Anything adventurous, any adventure books, or really any sort of Treasure Island, all that kind of stuff.
Where did you attend primary school?
I attended primary school at Welshampton until I was 11 years old, and then I passed the 11 plus, and then I went by train to a school about 9 miles away called Sir John Talbot's Grammar School for Boys, and it was in Whitchurch.
Sounds grand.
Oh well, it was. I thought it was pretty grand, but I was just a poor country kid, and I wasn't a towny kid, so there was a little bit of a level of differentiation between the town kids and the country kids, and I never enjoyed Sir John Talbot's Grammar School for Boys. In fact, I got caned twice. 6, and the headmaster was an ex-naval chaplain, and they had a boarding school facility there as well, but I never went to the boarding school, but he was a stickler for punishment, and I got caned, and I mean seriously caned, with a long cane, and I got 6 on the backside, bent over his desk. And why did I get those canings? Because I was found smoking in the bushes near the boarding house. Twice.
And so
it's not a good idea.
So after primary school in Wales, did they have an intermediate school or a secondary school? How did that work?
That's where I went. And
that's okay.
Yeah, that's after primary school. You go to it's virtually high school, and depending on whether you passed the 11 plus, you either went to a grammar school or what they called a secondary school, which took you through from the same age group from 11 through to 16, 17.
Right. So, did you go to university or did you take a trade?
No, never went to university. I left school at 17, worked on a farm. Well, I worked on a farm well before I left school because I used to work on a farm in the school holidays and on the weekends, and that's what you did in those times. And I went to work on the same farm full time when I was 17, and I was milking 90 cows, which doesn't seem many today, but 90 cows in those times
should be a lot of cows.
Was a lot of cows.
Yeah.
And they ran pigs and they ran sheep and corn and potatoes, and it was a real mixed farm. And I was a milker and clearing up and full time. Yeah, cutting corn, tossing bales about.
Good outdoor stuff.
Oh well, it was physical. Yeah, all. Yeah.
So, if you had a favourite subject at school, what would it have been?
Probably English.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
What about a favourite teacher? Do you have a teacher that you can recall where you're going, he was good for me, she was good for me?
No. Well, I mean, at a primary school, there were two teachers. One was Miss Richards, and she was a very strict disciplinarian, and she was the senior teacher up from the age of sort of 7 or 8 until you were 11. But the primary teacher was the sort of early teacher was Mrs. Park, and she got a fairly heavy hand too.
It used to be the way though, wasn't it?
It was.
It was the way.
You used to get your backside. You get caned on the hand or on the backside with a ruler. You have a ruler, and she used to whack you on the hand with a ruler. But those days are long gone.
If you'd had a close friend at school, how would he or she have described you? Were you quiet? Were you a ratbag? Were you?
Well, I thought that I would have been reasonably quiet, but I was always a big kid, and my best mate was a smaller sort of guy, and we were pretty good mates at school. Not to start with, he was fast on his feet, and he used to him and another guy, another boy. When I first went to grammar school, and I was pretty green, they would catch me and clout me, and then run because I was fat.
And you couldn't quite catch up.
I couldn't catch them, but I sorted it out one day because I hid behind the art room door when they were coming in, and I clouted this kid in the face, and that stopped it.
It solved the problem, and you become friends afterwards.
Oh yeah, down the track we were good mates after that.
So you remember any of the people? Did you retain contact with any of the kids from primary or grammar school? Do you still contact any of them these days? Are they well gone?
Yeah, pretty well. My particular team, I don't have I don't remember. Some of the older ones that are still around the village. They've never moved out of the village, so we had a run from 2006 to 2015 where we went back to the UK every year for 4 to 5 months.
Wow.
Because we bought a camper van over there.
Yeah.
And because I was only 26 when I left New Zealand and left the UK and came out to New Zealand, we hadn't seen much of the UK. Vicki and I met and got married in the UK, but we were busy, and we had Rod. Rod was born in the UK, and he was only 4 months old when I left the UK to come to New Zealand. And when I saw him again, he was 9 months old because Vicki came by sea and I flew, and I was recruited for the New Zealand Police.
So we finished grammar school
Yes,
and it's time to get a job.
yes.
First job, you're milking cows.
Milking cows.
What happened after that?
2 years on a farm, and I thought, well, there's not a great deal of future in this. And so I decided that somebody said, you're a big guy, you should be a policeman. So I thought, oh, well, we'll try it.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, there wasn't a great passion for it, but I joined the Shropshire Constabulary, and
And Shropshire's in England.
yes,
Yes,
Shropshire's, that's my county,
Yep.
that's where I was born.
Yep.
I joined the Shropshire Constabulary, and they found out actually at the time that I was actually slightly colourblind, green browns, and they still accepted me because I was. But the chief constable at the time of the interview said that I'll be keeping a strict eye on you. So if there's any failures on your side, you'll be gone. So anyway, I joined the Shropshire Constabulary, and within 2 years of that Shropshire Constabulary, me joining, it amalgamated with Worcester City and Herefordshire constabularies, and became
Should be huge.
West Mercia. It was 3 counties and a city, and it became West Mercia. Mercia being the Roman name for Midlands, because there's already a West Midlands Police, which is sort of Black Country, Wolverhampton, West Bromwich, that area. We're rural West Midlands, and there is a West Midlands Police and a West Mercia Police.
Goodness me. So you're in the police, and how old was that? How old were you then?
I was
Ben?
19 when I joined.
Oh, you're only a youngster.
I was just a boy, and yeah, it was rural type, small town policing. It was an enjoyable place to be in South Shropshire, where I was stationed. A very historic town. It got an old castle there, and it was a beautiful old town, and it was a good town to work in. Great people to work with. Different. It was almost in the era of Heartbeat, the old program Heartbeat.
Yeah, yeah.
Because after 3 years in this old town of Ludlow, I applied for and got a rural police beat with its own police station, but it was amalgamated with a number of other rural stations, so you worked the whole area, and that's how it worked. And I used to get around on a police motorbike. It was a 250, and then I qualified for a 350, and dealt with a lot of road accidents because we were on the main A49, which was a trunk route. This was before a lot of the motorways were sort of in action, and it was a very busy road, so there was a lot of accidents, a lot of fatal accidents to deal with, and and other than that, it was there was all sorts of rural thefts, burglaries, sheep stealing, cattle rustling, you name it, all that sort of stuff went on. Assaults, every cross section of offence you can think of, it used to happen in the area, but not in a heavy, big way. And you had a good team to work, a good team of guys. But often you were working on your own most of the time. But I mean, there were times when you.
And so at what point did you decide to head for the land of the long white cloud?
Well, my brother-in-law and his wife and Vicki and I talked about sort of emigrating somewhere, and because I didn't want to stay in an area where I was dealing with traffic accidents all the time, which was quite a lot of that, and so I made some inquiries and found that they were actually recruiting English cops I could have gone to Hong Kong, and after 12 months training or 2 years, I would have become an inspector. And that's just the way the system worked in Hong Kong in those times, because it was a British dependency or protectorate or whatever.
Yeah.
I could have gone to the Bahamas because they were recruiting English cops
Right.
for the Bahamas.
Sounds right.
Oh,
What are we doing?
I was very tempting, that was, the Bahamas. But then there was New Zealand, and there was one other, but I can't remember where the hell it was. But anyway, there used to be an advert on British TV, and it was an anchor advert, I think it was, and it used to be advertising milk products. I think it was butter. It was New Zealand, fresh as the buttercup, as golden as the sun. New Zealand means health for everyone.
And that was it. Sold.
That was it. And they run this Jersey cow across the screen with probably Mount Taranaki in the background, something like that. The Jersey cow would go across the screen, and then they'd reverse the film, and the cow would dance backwards, of course. So,
Oh, I love it. I love it.
this was early advertising. So it was. So I thought New Zealand would be a great place to go to, about as far away as we could get from where we lived. Not that was the idea, but that's why we came. And I went and sat the pre-entrance exam in London, and I went to Harley Street to a specialist for the medical.
Right.
For New Zealand, the New Zealand Police medical, and the Harley Street guy that did the medical put me through the eyesight test, and he said, "Did you realise that you were colourblind?" And I said, "Yes, I know I'm colourblind because I was tested for colourblindness when I first joined." "How long have you been in the police in the UK?" he said, and I said, 7 years. He said, "If it's good enough for the UK, for you to be a policeman in the UK without any problem whatsoever for 7 years, it's got to be good enough for New Zealand." So he ticked the box.
And away you went.
So away I went. But then, after getting into New Zealand and doing the training, and I was on probation for 2 years,
Right.
as you are, and I had to have a medical at the
Again?
end of the 2 years training. And they said, "Did you realise you were colourblind?" And I said, "Yes, yes, I know." And they said, "Oh, well, we're going to have to bang some restrictions on you. You're not allowed to give evidence on traffic lights and all this other stuff, and so on and so forth." And this came down from headquarters in Wellington at the time.
And so were you down here?
And I was at that stage. I was in Timaru because that was my first posting. So anyway, the boss in Timaru, because I must have performed pretty well in Timaru, wrote back and said, "Look, this guy has been now a policeman for 9 years, and you're starting to try and put restrictions on the guy." So anyway, they withdrew because there was I think they called it a Regulation 21 constable, which meant a temporary constable, that rank. And I wasn't very happy about this. I'd done 9 years as a cop, and suddenly they wanted New Zealand was suddenly so important that, or the administration of the police was so important that they wanted to make me a temporary constable, and I said that wasn't going to be, it wasn't going to make me very happy. Anyway, my bosses, who were in Timaru at the time, obviously, they wrote back to headquarters and said, "Look, the guy doesn't deserve or need that temporary rank. He needs to be a fully qualified constable because he's proved himself." And so he gave me the rank, and that was the end of the story. But I'm still colourblind.
What point did you come to Ross?
I did 2.5 years in Timaru. It was in those from 73 till late 75, and it was in the old booze barn days, and because there was plenty of action in Timaru in those days. There was ship girls, there were booze barns, there was scrapping, and Thursday night the old boozing from Thursday right through until the weekend. Through the weekend, it was a production line of assaults and drunks and what have you. And of course, at that point too, POMs were highly unpopular because the UK had dropped New Zealand when it joined the EU, and suddenly New Zealand's dairy produce and frozen meat and all that were no longer required in the UK, and you couldn't blame Kiwis for feeling a bit let down. In fact, I was horrified at the idea, because this country, Australia, India, Canada, how many tens of thousands of people have died for the mother country?
Yeah.
You know, not for any good reason. And then the UK turns around and says, oh, well, sink or swim, we've joined the EU, you find your own market. So I can understand. But they were printing in New Zealand at that stage, punch a palm a day.
Oh, I don't recall. I didn't realise that that was actually the cause. I always thought, because there was always discussions about the palms always ending up in the unions.
Oh well, that's another reason too. But no, but it was really to do with that the fact that the UK treated New Zealand abysmally. I think it was absolutely disgraceful.
Yeah, they weren't brilliant, were they?
No.
Yeah. So, did you enjoy Ross? I mean, you're still here. You're a very big part of the community here.
Yeah. Well, it was a lonely. Well, I say it's a lonely job. It was policing in those times in the mid '70s. I was a POM. I didn't play rugby. I had this accent, and I was a cop.
How did you survive?
Well, we used to have a lot of fun. Well, I used to have a lot of fun chasing people. I mean, when I look back on it now, it's crazy. But you had to go in and get grown men out of a pub because the law says, oh, the pub's got to be closed at a certain hour. Well, yeah. But I mean, I think I was firm but fair, and I was, as I say, I was policing here. I had some really good mates in the southern stations. I had Judd Price at Wanneroo. He came afterwards, and Stretch Millard at Hast. And between the three of us, we became known as the Southern Bros. And we ran a fairly good ship. There wasn't too much. There weren't too many issues. We did the job. We were very active in the job, and we ran. It wasn't highly disciplinarian. It was you ran the job in a fair way.
Yeah.
And that's how it seemed to. If something was seriously bad, well, then people got treated seriously badly.
Yeah.
But if it was just a minor indiscretion, they'd get a warning, or they might get a couple of warnings. But after that, you lowered the boom. I think
the big thing with, well, particularly Stretch and yourself, I didn't know Judd very well, but where you were part of the community, and that was the difference. A big difference.
Yeah, well, Vicki and I have always been very active in the community affairs. I mean, I was involved in the Lions for many years early on in the piece, and even when the railway was open, when we first came to Ross, and we used to get a railway wagon of coal, and we used to have working bees. The few line members that were around here at the time, we'd have working bees and bag this coal up on a Saturday or a Sunday, and we might bag 20 or 30 ton of this, all hand shoveled.
Oh, you're joking.
Oh, yeah. and then we'd deliver it over the winter months, sell it around the locals, and then we'd also have working bees of firewood, and we'd give firewood, loads of firewood away to the pensioners, because there was plenty of pensioners around. And of course today you don't see too much smoke about, because a lot of the fires have gone.
Yeah, they have.
Heat pumps. But we used to in the wintertime, we'd have working bees, and sometimes we could deliver up to 40 trailer loads of firewood around the area to deserted.
Some weekends.
Yeah, we'd do that, and we'd have working bees like collecting wire rope and anything and everything, and I suppose one of the more successful that I was involved with was I actually set up, and it'll be frowned on today, of course. I set up the gaming machines in the City Hotel, which is now closed. I set them up. I went to the internal affairs through the Lions Club, and I said, look, we want to set up these gaming machines because they were quite prolific in those times.
Yeah.
And so I said, I got 2 game machines and did all the paperwork, went internal affairs, inland revenue, the whole shooting box, and got them set up there, and they were making very, very good.
Great fundraiser for the community.
It was. And I reckon in fact I know that over 5 years while we were Vicki and I were operating them, because she would help me come and empty the things, the machines, that we raised over $100,000 for the Southwestern community, which like the Southwestern Lions Club.
Yeah.
While we were operating those machines. And if you think about how much money would have gone into those machines, we gave away over $100,000. Now just remember, before you can have $100,000, you've got to pay, at that stage it was 12.5% GST, 30% tax. We had to pay $650 per machine per year license fee. We had to pay a rental to the publican, and still we managed to raise over 5 years over $100,000, which we gave.
So
the Lions Club gave away.
Close to $1 million go through.
Well, it was crazy.
Yeah,
absolutely crazy. But I mean, today it's frowned on very seriously.
Oh no, well, I think it's the best fundraiser you could ever find.
Now we did all right with it. Yeah.
What year did you retire?
I finished in the police in 1996. The last months of my time, we moved into this house, I suppose it would be 8 or 9 months before, and my job as a sole charge constable was filled by Mike McManus. Mike was a really good man too.
Yep.
Excellent guy. But I went to my last months as a community constable in Hokitika.
Right.
And they gave me a noddy car, a little community car, and I used to buzz up and down to Hokitika. But occasionally I get used as a sort of a fill-in on the shift. And I can remember when it was time for me to finish, I was there was some larrikins hooning around Hokitika, and they hit some planters in the main street, and I think there was myself and Graham McGurk were checking pubs at the time, and anyway someone said, oh, there's a car shot through, so we found that car. It had gone through that little, I can't even know, the beach access road. Yeah. And mounted some steps and demolished the undercarriage. And these young guys in their 16s and 17s, they were there, and none of them would admit to being the drivers, of course, so there wasn't any real damage other than the car. Yeah. So, but we saw these guys, not straight away, but we saw them and picked them up to talk to them. We took them to the police station, and there was a great big boy in the back, I think he was about 17, and I was sitting in the front alongside McGurk, and there was these 3 or 4 boys sitting in the back, and this boy was effing and blinding and yelling, and I couldn't handle that, because my guys in my area didn't give me any of that sort of nonsense. So I reached over to speak to this guy, and I reached over to grab him by the hair, because he was giving me some grief.
Yeah.
But his hair was about that long, so all I finished up was massaging his head.
I gotcha.
And Graham McGurk, who was driving, elbowed me in the ribs and he says, "Don't touch the guy." And I looked a bit askew at him and he says, "You will be out of the job faster than you know if you touch him." And I thought, it's time for me to leave. So very shortly after that, I put in my papers and I was gone out of the police because I never assaulted people, but I couldn't handle the mouth on this particular young fella. Today, I wouldn't be a teacher.
No. Oh, no. You'd be worried.
Not.
Now, how old were you when you started dating?
I would be about, I think I'd be about 13. Yeah.
Can you remember your first date?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Was she a fine wee lady?
She was.
Wow.
Yeah, she was a nice girl. And I think we sort of knocked around together for 2 or 3 years, I think. Yeah, we did.
When did you first? We won't go any further there, Pete.
No, we don't need to go any further, Bruce.
Now, when did you first meet Vicki?
When I was in my first posting in the police, and that was in Ludlow in 1967, I suppose. I went to Ludlow in 1966, and it was around 66, 67 that Vicki and I met up. I was in a boarding house. She was a friend. She had a friend that was in the same boarding house as me. And anyway, Vicki and I got together, and I suppose we were married within 12 months, I think.
Do you remember your first date with Vicki?
I struggle with that, but Vicki can remember it.
Of course.
But I think we went to the the cinema, the pictures, I think it was, yeah. And then we went to a dance maybe the following week or something after that, and then we went.
It's called love, mate. That's the way it is. It's the way it is. Now,
absolutely.
How many years have you been married now? You must be.
We celebrated our 50th wedding anniversary on the 28th of October, just gone.
Well, congratulations. It's 50's
Yeah.
a long time.
We had the whole team with us.
How would you describe Vicki? What's the quality you most admire about her?
The fact that she's been able to put up with me for that length of time. She's patient. She is caring. She's loving. She's a great mother. She's a great wife. And she continues to look after me now, because since this cancer diagnosis, this terminal thing, we've got even closer because we're able to handle the trauma of it, if you like. But we have tearful moments still, but not very often. We've sort of come to terms with that. But Vicki has been my absolute rock all the way through. I've always been the front man in this partnership.
Yep.
You know, and always the higher profile. I've been involved in stuff that has been higher profile, helicopter rescues and QSM and all that sort of stuff. But
yep.
At the end of the day, Vicki's equally entitled to the kudos, if not more than me, because she has been just such a solid old rock.
Yeah, well, isn't it wonderful? Love of your life.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Yeah,
Love of your life.
Like all loves of lives, we've had our ups and downs in the past, and the odd hiccup, but at the end of the day, we're still together, and we still love each other, and I don't think I couldn't have survived without her for the past 6 or 7 months since this terminal cancer diagnosis came on, and it's allowed me to live a pretty damn good life.
How many kids?
Two boys, and 3 grandchildren.
Wow.
And they're all in Oz. But we've got Rod, he's in Melbourne and living with he's got a couple of guys that he's living with.
Yep.
Partners. Dan lives in Sydney, and he and his wife have got 3 little children. Well, baby's 9, son is 7, and Bo is 3. And they are a source of great enjoyment. We've had a heap of fun with these kids. They've just taken off this morning in my vehicle. I'm Bampy.
Oh, Bampy.
Bampy is,
Oh,
it's not, I'm not Grandpa, I'm
right.
Bampy.
Oh,
It's a bit of a sort of a Welsh type name for a granddad. So I'm Bampy. So anyway, they've gone off in Bampy's car or station wagon, and they're going to tour around for a couple of weeks, and then hopefully they'll come back to us. But Rod went back to, they came over, they've been back into on a fairly regular basis since this diagnosis, because they came over within 5 days of knowing the terminal side of it. They came over to give us support, which was great, for 4 or 5 days. And then they went back, and then they came over again for our wedding anniversary, our 50th. And this is the whole team.
that's pretty cool, Pete.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
It's hard to do because everyone's got their own lives. It
Yes.
costs money. It's
Absolutely. And I'm very, very proud of both my boys and the grandchildren. They're caring, good guys, and hard-working and honest toilers. Yeah, good, great. I'm very proud.
hard to say anything better about someone than what you've just said.
Well, they've come to the fore, as I say, since this illness business. I don't want to keep rattling on about the illness thing, but that's when people seem to show their metal, if you like,
Yeah.
you know. And the people around here, the ones that have shown support, it's just blown me away, because there's been so much kindness shown. People that have come and, I mean, a couple of ladies, the neighbours, and another lady, they've come and pruned all the trees, or the fruit trees, and they helped with the Parkover property. You know, I mean, the support I've had on that Parkover property project has been bloody magnificent.
It's there all the time, but it only comes out in times of tragedy or times of real need.
Yes.
That special connection, because we sit back and sometimes you sit back and think, these people out there, they don't really know me, they don't really care, but in actual fact they do. And we miss it, you know.
Yeah.
Did you ever meet your grandparents?
I had a granny, and I used to, and she was actually just over the Welsh border. She was actually in Wales, and I didn't. The only one is my granny was on my mother's side, and we used to stay. I used to stay with her, and I was able to cycle to her house, which would have been about 3 or 4 miles away, which was a huge distance.
Yeah, would
when
have
you
been.
were a kid, and there was a thatched cottage, and we used to call her house the Thatch. It was one of those old thatched cottages,
And what did she do? I guess she was elderly at that time.
Oh yes, she was, and her husband had been killed. I think he'd come off his push bike when he was full and broke his neck or something after that stuff. But she was just she was a lovely old gentle lady, and we used to have I used to have a lot of fun, because there was a woodland right behind the house, and there was places to go, and in the fields and the streams and woodlands. It was just rural and great stuff.
Been a lot of changes in your years. What would you consider the most important inventions that you've seen in your last 50 years? You know, what's the thing that's come along and gone and changed everything?
Communication, Skype, I mean, Skype is now a thing almost. Because you've got FaceTime, you've got all these other.
And suddenly our family's so close.
Yeah,
all the time.
Absolutely. And in our day, we'd get a phone call once a year, or we'd make a phone call once a year, and there'd be a 2 or 3 second delay, and you could never have a really good conversation with the old people back home in the late 70s, because it'd take an age to, and they'd always ask the same question: what's the weather like? But anyway, nothing's changed, because that's still the question. What's the weather like?
Did you, when you were a kid, do you remember getting the first refrigerator or the first TV?
I remember going to see the first TV. But yes, when I was a kid, we had a bathroom, but we didn't have hot water, or we didn't have the water plumbed to it.
Right.
So the water used to get boiled up in a copper, and then it used to get bucketed into the bath. And then once a week you'd have your bath. But because I was the sixth in line,
were you always number 6?
I would be the last one in the team to climb into the mud, if you like.
Yeah. That was, I could expand on that. How's the world different today than when you were a kid?
Oh, I think there's a lot of values have changed. Children seem to dominate more. In my time, it was kids seen but not heard. Children's rights seem to have gone crazy. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, from my point of view, a child needs to be loved, cared for, fed, and that's about it. Loved, cared for, fed, and clothed. But today, this children's rights things, and there seems to be mayhem in schools, and the lack of discipline that seems to be. And I'm not talking about kids getting beaten up, but just the basic
guidelines.
They've got to have boundaries. Kids have to have boundaries, and we see it ourselves. They respect the boundaries, and it makes them feel safe if they know how far they can go. But this idea that kids can do anything all the time, whenever they want to, and they can call the shots at schools, and it's just not right. And it's just something that has changed in my lifetime, and it's not for the better.
Yeah. Do you ever come across a person in your life that you met, end up with a great deal of respect for, who focused you or changed your direction? I can't say that, but I've always had a lot of respect for the guys, some of the guys in the job, in the old police job. And I've got a lot of respect, for a lot of other people too, that community people. The likes of old Stanley Dawson, my old mate Stan. Stan's been a mate for forever. He's a quiet, unassuming, solid as a rock guy. And I interviewed Stan.
Yes,
and it was so interesting. I tell you what, I could have gone on forever.
Yeah.
It was just so good.
Yeah, well, it's guys like that, salt of the earth, down to earth, no frills. There seems to be a tendency with the police administration today that they want the police to be loved. The police are not there to be loved. They're there to do a job and to be respected and to use their discretion and use their common sense. Because some of the decisions that have been made by the police hierarchy in recent times or in recent years have been absolutely shocking, but I probably don't need to go there.
No. Now tell me, proud moment, Queen Service Medal.
Yeah, it was extremely humbling, and I still question whether I was worthy of it, that I am worthy of it. But
You wouldn't have got it if you didn't.
Well,
if you weren't.
yeah, well, that's what people say, but I also think of people that have done as much, if not more, than me for the community, and they haven't had a QSM.
Yeah. Who presented it to you?
It was presented to me by
Who was the
Governor General at the time. I went up to Wellington, and it was.
There's a lady.
Yes, I've got a photograph somewhere here, but I don't think.
But let's come back to that.
Yes.
Now, how would you describe your sense of humour? Because people, one of the things you've got a very ready smile. You know, like so you've got a you've got a sense of humour.
Oh yeah.
So how would you describe it?
Oh well, I just love a laugh. I love I love some of these characters that are around. You know, every generation seems to have characters, and some of the statements and phrases that you hear about. I can think of one. I'm going to tell you the story. I've done some strange things well, not strange, but unusual things. I was given the honour of running or of taking Donnie Linklater's funeral and actually doing the funeral service itself. I did another one after that, but there was a story there that came out when I was talking to. It was actually with Peter Manera, who was a top man, and Peter was telling me that Donnie was working. Him and Donnie were working underneath a hay baler, and they had a Toyota Land Cruiser vehicle there with the door open, and they were listening to the radio, and they were lying under this baler trying to repair it. And it came on the news that Heath Ledger had sadly committed suicide. I mean, you know, and any suicide is a sad event.
Yeah.
And Donnie Linklater, lying on his back trying to fix this baler, said, "Yeah, poor bastard. He probably had one of these effing balers." That's probably why he committed suicide.
Peter, can you remember a time where, because you've travelled a lot, can you remember a time where you felt really at peace with yourself in a beautiful place that you go back to?
Yeah. We travelled in that camper van, as I say, for 10 years during the winter months, when it was in New Zealand winter months, and we were in the UK and in Europe. And France was a country that I really, really loved. I thought it was a magnificent country. It's a big country. We covered tens of thousands of miles through Germany, France, Spain, Italy, all through Europe. But France, I absolutely love France because it's a rural country, a lot of it, and it's got so much history and magnificent buildings that were never damaged during those two wars. And I mean, France took a hammering, and to see the First World War, to go through France and Belgium and looking at those First World War memorials and cemeteries, even now it would bring a tear to my eyes.
Wow.
Because it was just absolutely horrendous what went on in that First World War. And to be there amongst those memorials and those tens of Ypres and places like that, the Western Front, where there are, as I say, tens and tens of thousands of military graves. And even when you go off into a little place, you might come across a little military grave with maybe 40 or 50, all identical, all beautifully maintained. But the question, yeah, I love France a lot. The French people are insistent, in the main, that you speak French. And I had a very basic knowledge of French from school, It was that basic that I ordered at one stage there a coffee or a tea with cold water. I wanted it shored, I think it was. It should have been shored, and I said, wow, which was, but anyway, they looked at me, and eventually I got the right, but I ordered it cold, but I got the right thing. But no, the French are quite staunch about their language, and
That's a good thing.
yeah, it is a good thing.
Well, Pete, as we roll into the last part of this, your health, you've got terminal cancer.
Yes.
How long have you known?
It was in May. I'd actually been coughing up a little bit of blood for maybe several weeks, maybe April, early March, April, and just a little bit in the morning. So I went to see the doctor, and she was pretty prompt in her actions, and she said, "Well, that's not a good thing." I'd actually seen it on Google. It's probably not a good thing to be coughing up blood. So I went to the doctor. She says X-ray. Had an X-ray. She said there's something showing. Need to go for a CT scan. Had a CT scan. Showed a single tumour about 2.7 by 3 centimetres on the top of the lung, and they said, well, where it is probably operable. It would be operable, and they'd take about 20% of my lung, which gave me a hell of a fright. But before that could happen, of course, I had to go across to Christchurch because they wanted to do give me a PET scan, which is with that radioactive sort of juice that they put through, a PET scan, and also do a biopsy, which they give me a tattoo there for. That's
wow. Drill a hole in it?
Yeah, so they send a fat needle through between the ribs to give you a local anaesthetic and into the tumour, and then they send these fine needles into the tumour itself, and that's not a very pleasant experience, but that's necessary. But anyway, the PET scan came back taking me from a stage 1 operable cancer to a stage 4 terminal situation, because unfortunately that main tumour had made contact with the pleura, the chest wall, and it had virtually infected the whole of the left side of my chest, and the tumour showed up like a Christmas tree, they said, in the pleura. So, and they seem to be settling around the spine, and they're up between the lungs as well. There's a series of tumours between the lungs, and of course that was, at least I'd been given the notice that I'd got an operable cancer, so I was able to adjust to some extent to that, and this was in May and in June, and they said, well, look, it's not treatable either, because over the period of weeks and months they cultured these when they did the biopsy of the tumour, they cultivated it or cultured it, and unfortunately it was found that nothing that was available because the particular kind of adenocarcinoma that I've got is not susceptible to any treatment that they've got, and they said that even chemotherapy, there's about a 30% chance that it will reduce your tumours, but it can't cure them. And so when I got the message from the specialist at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it blew me away. And then at 6 o'clock, I had the oncology nurse from Christchurch who was with me at the time. She said that I would be in a state of shock. So did I have any questions? And I said, well, yes. I said, I've been told it's terminal, and what does that mean in time, in a time frame? And she said it means months. And I said, well, what about treatment? And she said, well, that would only give you more months. She said, well, that will give you, maybe, if it works, more months. So I came to the conclusion that I don't want to go down the chemotherapy track where I'm made ill just to extend my time out a bit longer. So anyway, I had the notice of the terminal cancer, and so I went then to a naturopath and got a whole heap of natural remedies, and people around here have also given me some natural remedies as well. So I've been stuck into those for months, and I'm into a routine. I don't know whether they're going to make any difference. All I do know is that I remain in reasonably good health. I'm able to work. I'm able to swim. I'm able to walk. I get a bit more breathless than I used to. I put a lot of time into that pop, doing physical work.
Yeah.
And I'm still able to do. I'm 72 years old.
And you're in jolly good nick.
Yeah, well, I think I am as well.
So
while I accept that I have terminal cancer and that it will nail me, I'm just, the problem with it too is that it's classed as a wild cancer. It describes as a wild cancer, so it could jump from one organ to another or to whatever.
Yeah.
And at this stage, I'm lucky because it's stayed pretty well within the chest surrounds, if you like,
yeah.
and that single tumour. But I'm still in good order, and there's plenty of grunt left in me yet. And but we do appreciate the fact that it will one day.
It'll knock you over.
It will, and something's going to knock us over anyway.
Exactly, and your kids are around you. You've got Vicki. You've got the grandkids.
I got the community.
You've got the community, and there are miracles out there. That's a reality.
Yeah.
And no one knows how they happen.
No.
But Peter, you're looking bloody good.
Yeah. Well, I feel pretty sharp. I've got some special treatment which some people very, very generously brought down of their own accord. It's an olive oil infused with the whole cannabis plant.
Goodness me.
And it's infused into this, and it allows me to sleep at night.
Yep.
And they've also brought me some ointment which Vicki rubs on, because at one stage there, just after starting to take this stuff, it was like, if I wake up in the night, it was like someone was trying to rip my breastbone out, because it's as if the tumours were sort of taking a hold.
Yeah.
But by being massaged with this coconut ointment, which is also infused with cannabis,
yeah,
as she massages my chest and down the back, I'm still fighting fit, and I don't get that horrendous ripping that I was experiencing a few weeks ago. So I'm a very lucky guy at this stage.
Well, Peter, as we'll wind this up now, and look, what an amazing interview. You know, the thing that you need to know is that the community's right behind you. They really are. Your family's behind you.
Yeah.
We're all there. Now, Coasters, you can watch the full interview here on the Coasters Club YouTube channel. You could go to the Hokitika Museum, and there's a copy there. I'll be sending Peter a memory stick with the full interview on it, so he can share it with his family. And of course, you'll see this series over 7 individual interviews, and they'll be in late January. But Peter, thank you so much for your time. It's been so blooming interesting. It really has. And we'll catch you later.
Thank you, Bruce. Thanks very much, mate.
Yeah.